The tragedy that unfolded in the quiet town of Pirenópolis in the heart of Goiás, Brazil, is one of those stories that seem to defy human understanding, exposing the darkest side of obsession disguised as affection. For readers familiar with the sense of safety and family ties in the United States, the case of Lone Rodrigues da Silva Costa serves as a chilling reminder that, in Brazil as anywhere, the deepest danger can lurk in familiarity, right behind the front door where trust should be absolute. Pirenópolis is not a bustling metropolis like Rio de Janeiro or São Paulo. Located about 128 kilometers 80 miles from Goiânia, the state capital, and roughly 140 kilometers 87 miles from the federal capital, Brasilia, it fits the Brazilian idea of a small-town setting. It's a place celebrated for its natural beauty, traditional festivals, and generally welcoming atmosphere, where life moves at a slower pace and community ties run deep. Yet this seeming tranquility would be shattered by a crime that stunned the nation with its unexpected use of dynamite. In this idyllic traditional setting lived Lone Rodrigues, a young woman who, by all accounts, radiated light. She was described as beautiful, charismatic, and always smiling. Lone had a captivating gaze and an extraordinary ease in making friends. Her dreams were ambitious. In 2012, she took a significant step by starting a nursing program in Anápolis, a neighboring city, pursuing a career dedicated to saving lives. Yet her greatest aspirations was to become a firefighter. Alongside her studies, she worked weekdays as a childcare provider at a local inn, helping cover household expenses. Lone embodied the spirit of a young Brazilian connected to her local culture. She was a cowgirl at heart, riding horses, wearing hats and boots, and deeply passionate about sertaneja music, a genre immensely popular in Brazil, often likened to American country music. She was the family favorite, the most pampered and admired. Lone's family structure was typical of many Brazilian households following the separation of her biological parents, Sandra and Joel, when she was just 7 years old. 2 years later, Sandra began a relationship with Joaquim Lourenço da Luz. Joaquim, a garimpeiro, a small-scale miner often involved in extracting minerals or gemstones, became part of the family, which included Lone and her brother Luan. He treated his stepchildren as his own, and Lone grew up seeing him as a father figure, someone she could trust completely. Even Joel, her biological father, stayed in touch and discussed the children's upbringing with Joaquim. As Lone thrived, her relationship with her stepfather began to shift subtly, evolving from protective affection into a more controlling dynamic. Like any 18-year-old, she loved going out to parties, especially traditional local celebrations, such as the Festa do Divino, a religious and folkloric festival of great importance in Pirenópolis. Over time, however, her nights out grew later and later, and Joaquim's reactions became increasingly intense. He presented himself as overly protective to her mother Sandra and to Lone herself. It all seemed like caring concern or excessive vigilance, an over-the-top but well-intentioned form of care, culturally accepted in some Brazilian family contexts. He constantly called to check on her whereabouts and, on several occasions, showed up at parties to take her home, driven by a fear that something might happen to her. Yet this overprotection crossed boundaries. Lone's friends and even her mother misread the signals, assuming it was just a fatherly form of care. In hindsight, the investigating officer would later confirm that these gestures weren't protective at all, but were instead the signs of a sick obsession and irrational jealousy. Joaquim's control extended to Lone's romantic relationships as well. A boyfriend she cared deeply for abruptly ended things, telling Lone's mother that the reason was her stepfather and that he felt he needed to step back. Sandra, still trusting Joaquim, had dismissed the complaint, once again interpreting it as mere concern. Lone possessed a beauty that could have won her any man she wanted, yet Joaquim didn't like her talking to men and tightly controlled her time. His jealousy wasn't directed at his biological children, it was exclusive and intense toward Lone, a niece of his recalled. Not even with his own kids was it like this. She always came first. He harbored a forbidden and twisted love for her, expressed through seemingly innocent, intimate gestures, long stretches of sitting side by side watching TV or giving foot massages that Lone naively interpreted as just fatherly affection. What had appeared as paternal control escalated into violence in May 2012. It was nighttime, and Lone was walking home alone from a party. She was nearly at her gate, beginning to lock it, when suddenly someone emerged from behind. She suffered a blow to the head. The attack was sudden and completely unexpected. In the darkness, Lone fell, screaming for help. She tried to defend herself, injuring her fingers in the struggle, while the head wound was severe, requiring more than 30 stitches. The scene was filled with panic. Sandra, who had been sleeping on the sofa, was awakened by her husband Joaquim's shouts as he ran to see what had happened. The attacker had already fled, and Lone, still in shock, couldn't identify who had assaulted her. The family filed a boletim de ocorrência, a Brazilian equivalent of a police report. The authorities investigated, but the case went cold with no concrete leads. The inquiry was eventually halted, and no one was held officially accountable. For Sandra, Joaquim, and the rest of the family, all that remained was anguish and the haunting suspicion that Lone was being targeted by someone dangerous. However, one crucial detail went almost unnoticed by Lone. Though it would later catch the investigators' attention, the family dogs hadn't reacted. The dogs, who normally barked at the slightest sound, remained completely silent during the attack. To the police, months later, this would be a strong clue that the attacker was someone the animals knew, someone from inside the house. After weeks of recovery, Lone tried to resume her life, but the shadow of the assault never lifted. Months later, confirmation that she was being stalked arrived in the form of an anonymous letter that terrified everyone around her. The note was hateful and menacing. The message made it clear the attacker was coming back to Piranópolis. Open your eyes. I'm coming to Piranópolis. This time I'm staying. You were lucky not to die. This time your stepfather won't be around. I'll be close to you at night. I won't give many clues, you traitor. You have no idea who I am. I can take you wherever I want. Your friend will bring you to me. Wait for me. Your day will come. Open your eyes. The family was terrified. The threat was explicit and seemed aimed at a single target: Lone. Once again, a boletim de ocorrência was filed, and once again the police were unable to identify the author of the threat. Frightened, Lone completely changed her routine. She no longer went out alone, always accompanied by her mother, her brother, close friends, or crucially, Joaquim. The tension in the air was palpable. She tried to distract herself by posting photos on social media, but the feeling of being watched was constant and suffocating. Ironically, the threat only reinforced Joaquim's role as protector, deepening the trust that Lone and Sandra placed in him. While the family lived under the shadow of anonymous threats, the person stalking her, Joaquim, moved quietly behind the scenes, finalizing the preparations for his ultimate act of possessiveness. Later investigations revealed that Joaquim had planned the crime at least 2 months in advance. The minor took calculated steps that suggested both financial interest and the simulation of an accident. Weeks before the tragedy, he purchased a life insurance policy, naming his wife and children as beneficiaries. The policy was worth 30,000 reals. The detective suspected that Joaquim intended to create a situation that would result in a payout, even questioning whether the policy covered suicide. Additionally, about a month before the events, Joaquim sold the rights to a quarry to a colleague, insisting on complete secrecy about the transaction. During this period, Joaquim's behavior also showed notable changes that would only make sense in hindsight. A niece noticed that he made a point of attending family gatherings, something unusual for a reserved man. The family would later realize that he was saying goodbye. Joaquim's obsession was not only emotional, it also involved planning and danger. Working as a miner, he had access to explosives used in quarries. The police would later confirm that the materials used in the crime came from the company where he worked. 3 days before the crime, Sandra, unaware of what was about to happen, noticed objects related to the tragedy inside the car. When asked by her husband, she showed where certain dangerous items were kept. Later, she would regret it, saying, "I feel guilty." In an apparent attempt to ease the constant tension and watchfulness that hung over the house, Joaquim suggested a family outing. The destination was Morro do Frota, a tourist spot in Piranópolis known for its hiking trails, natural beauty, and panoramic views of the city. The area was also steeped in legends of hidden treasures left by former residents. The idea was meant to be lighthearted: a walk, some photos, and an easy afternoon outdoors. At first, Sandra hesitated, but Lone warmed up to the invitation. On Tuesday, December 17, 2013, the day of the trip, the weather was calm. Despite some initial reluctance, Lone agreed to Joaquim's suggestion to take photos for social media. She got ready as usual, showered, put on makeup, straightened her hair, and wore a pink t-shirt. Before leaving, confident that she would be back soon, she asked her mother to book an appointment at a salon because she wanted to trim her hair. Lone, at 19, had her whole life ahead of her. Around 3 p.m., Sandra drove the family to the base of Morro do Frota. Along the way, they made plans for Christmas shopping the following week in Anápolis. Upon arriving, Sandra, Lone, and Joaquim began the climb. Partway up the trail, however, Sandra felt tired and decided to head back to the car. She and her daughter agreed that Lone and Joaquim would continue to the top, take some photos, and then call so Sandra could drive back to pick them up at the meeting point. Sandra's decision to turn back, an innocent act of exhaustion, ended up leaving Lone alone with Joaquim. Sandra arrived home about 50 minutes later and the phone rang. It was Lone. She said they had reached the top of the hill and had already taken around 20 photos, all of Joaquim, as would later be revealed. Lone mentioned that they were tired and thirsty, but Joaquim had brought water. That would be Lone's last contact with her mother. "Mom, I love you so much," she said before hanging up. After the phone call, an uneasy silence settled in. More than 45 minutes passed and neither Lone nor Joaquim had returned. A twinge of unease crept over Sandra. She tried calling her daughter's cell phone but got no answer. Thinking they might already be on their way back to the meeting point, Sandra drove to the agreed location, but the trail was empty. Anxiety quickly turned to panic. Night was approaching, and the possibility that they had gotten lost or suffered an accident haunted the family. The police and the fire department, who in Brazil are often responsible for searches in forests and mountains, were immediately notified. 18 personnel began scouring the vast, dense vegetation of Morro do Frota. The darkness, heavy and oppressive, made progress slow. Rain fell, further reducing visibility. The search was suspended at midnight. The family spent the night in agonizing uncertainty with no news, drowning in fear. The people of Pirenópolis united in prayer, clinging to the hope that the two had simply gotten lost on the trail. The following morning, December 18th, the search efforts resumed in full force. In addition to the firefighters, local residents who knew every shortcut and trail on the hill joined the rescue teams. Around 1 p.m., the worst nightmare was confirmed. A resident discovered the two in an extremely hard-to-reach area, about 300 meters from one of the main trails. There were Lone Rodriguez and her stepfather, Joaquim. The scene revealed they had endured extreme violence. Both were bound to a tree with ropes and chains. Lone lay on the ground, covered in dirt and leaves, her body still tied to the tree. Joaquim was also chained, a gag in place. Lone's clothing, including the pink shirt she had been wearing, was torn. The area where they suffered severe injuries showed signs of an explosion, causing significant damage. Joaquim's face also bore visible trauma. Scattered around the scene, investigators found the remains of a burnt tent, a knife, and a red lighter. Lone's cell phone and purse were found rummaged through but not stolen. Pirenópolis plunged into shock and mourning. It wasn't just the brutality of the act, it was the symbolism. A young woman full of life and her stepfather, lost in a place meant for peace and reflection. Lone's biological father, Jolly Aparecido da Costa, who had seen his daughter just a day before the crime in a joyful, playful moment, was devastated. He recalled Joaquim's seemingly genuine concern. He used to say, "Your daughter's staying out late, be careful with her. I thought it was real concern. But afterward, I realized he had other intentions." The investigators who arrived at Morro do Frota were unequivocal. This was not an accident, but a meticulously planned crime. The way the bodies were bound, the chains, and the burn marks all pointed to a calculated act, filled with cruelty. Initially, the police tried to piece together recent events, the attack months earlier, and the anonymous letters containing explicit threats. Everything initially pointed to an external stalker, someone harboring a sick obsession with the young woman. Yet the investigation began to uncover the central contradiction of the case. If it was a stalker, why had Joaquim, the protector, died alongside her? Joaquim's image as a victim was quickly dismantled as forensic evidence mounted. What? Handwriting and the silent dogs. The first shocking revelation emerged when investigators re-examined the earlier attack. The fact that the family's dogs remained silent while Lone suffered head injuries was a crucial clue. The assailant was someone the animals knew, someone from inside the house. Next, the threatening letters that had terrorized the family were subjected to handwriting analysis. The expert concluded that the writing, though disguised, belonged to Joaquim. The discovery was an emotional blow to the family. The man they trusted most was the very stalker they had feared. 2. The tangible evidence of the crime. The investigation traced every object found at the scene, turning each into evidence of Joaquim's premeditation. The tent. Remnants of a burned tent were found at the scene. Analysis confirmed that the material belonged to Joaquim. This indicated that the location had been prearranged and the tent brought up the hill beforehand. The ropes and chains, the items used to tie Lone and Joaquim to the tree, were also traced. They were the same ropes and chains that Joaquim kept at home. The dynamite, the explosive that caused the destruction at the site, was identical to that used at the quarry where Joaquim worked as a miner. 3. The attempted staging and financial motive. The lead investigator, Bruno Costa e Silva, stated that Joaquim had tried to mislead the investigation toward a double homicide theory. The goal was to make the scene appear as the work of someone else, ensuring the payout of a life insurance policy he had taken out days earlier. The staging attempt even included Joaquim being gagged and tied up himself. 4. The victim's incapacitation. Forensic analysis revealed that Lone had no chance to defend herself. There were no apparent signs of struggle. For the experts, the young woman had been incapacitated at the moment she was tied up. Toxicology tests revealed the presence of ethanol alcohol in Lone's blood. Additionally, a 500 milliliters water bottle that Joaquim had brought on the outing contained traces of clonazepam, an anti-anxiety medication commonly used in Brazil to treat anxiety and seizures. The police hypothesis was clear. Joaquim had attempted to render the young woman vulnerable before carrying out his plan. Although traces of the substance were not directly detected in Lone's bloodstream, the absence of defensive wounds in her left arm and leg being loose reinforced the belief that she had been under the influence of a sedative. 5. Obscure motivation. Examination of the crime scene confirmed that there had been no sexual abuse or any indication of sexual activity. This reinforced the theory that the motivation behind the crime was far more complex and deep-seated than physical violence or theft. Joaquim sought to exercise absolute control over the life and fate of his stepdaughter. He harbored a morbid and pathological jealousy, along with a possessive feeling. The obsession was so intense that Chief Investigator Rodrigo Jamie summarized it bluntly. Joaquim believed that if Lone wasn't his, she wouldn't belong to anyone else. The way he died clinging to her reinforced the element of a crime of passion, a legal and social term in Brazil, referring to offenses committed under intense emotion, usually jealousy or possessive love. Though this classification is now challenged by activists for downplaying gender-based violence, framing it today as femicide. On December 2, 2014, nearly a year after the tragedy, the Goiás Civil Police concluded the investigation. The outcome was devastating and definitive. Joaquim Lourenço de Luz had premeditated and carried out the murder of Lone Rodrigues da Silva Costa, followed by his own suicide. The case was closed as a crime of passion driven by jealousy. Since no third party was involved, the inquiry was set to be archived, as suggested by the investigator. This revelation completely changed the community's perception of Joaquim, the man who called to check if Lone was returning from parties, who picked her up to ensure her safety, was in reality the cold and calculating executioner scheming in the shadows. He was the greatest danger of all. For Sandra Rodrigues da Silva, her mother, the truth was a betrayal that shattered her world. She had spent 8 years with Joaquim, believing him to be a loving husband and father. The pain of losing her daughter collided with a whirlwind of disbelief and guilt. Sandra lamented, "I feel guilty for not noticing the signs and for failing to perceive the threat posed by the dynamite." She and her son Luan could not bear the emotional weight of living in the same house. Every corner, the room adorned with photos, the nursing notebooks, the guitar Lone loved to play, seemed frozen in time, a constant reminder of the daughter who dreamed of becoming a firefighter. They moved away, seeking a fresh start that could never erase the pain. Lone, who wore pink and adored the country life, was buried wearing her favorite white hat. She became a symbol of injustice in Pirenópolis, a painful warning about violence and the silent obsessions that destroy entire families. Lone Rodrigues' case remains a haunting reminder that trust, when twisted by obsessive desires, can spiral into tragedy of unimaginable proportions.